What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Caught Stealing, Fantasy Alarms Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Howard Bender. With me, of course, is Colby Conway. And we took last week off. It was, a timing sort of an issue. So we apologize if we left anybody hanging. But, I get opportunities to see fish at, out here in the on the West Coast. Colby, I have to dive into that. And then the NFL draft, which kind of got a little crazy. I'll have to bring you on to the Sirius XM show so we can talk about the Texans draft and what you think about it here, but not here right now because people just want to talk baseball right now. Colby, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, doing well. Hope you had a good time at Fish. I know I was, once you get to go do Fish, then you come back and you're like, how's Thursday night? And I'm like, dude, I got wiffle ball. Team needs me. They need me to go out there and go 2 for 3 with 2 rollover singles. Like, that's what I'm there to do. Power hitting first baseman. That's basically what I'm more like the James Loney type. Hit for a good average, no power whatsoever from the spot. But yep, missed last week, but we're back. We're, hopefully you guys that are listening, and if you're not, Fantasy Alarm Discord members, because while we weren't live last week with the podcast, answered a ton of questions in Discord, from prospects to all-stars to trade candidates and everything in between.
And we're gonna do a lot of focusing on the youngsters today because there's a lot that's been going on as far as questions in the Discord, like legitimate questions about, and I guess it really comes down to this, Colby. It's I remember when we were doing fantasy baseball, and it was the year was 2000, and Albert Pujols came from out of nowhere. Right, like he wasn't even supposed to make the team, and then he turns around and plays third base for the St. Louis Cardinals and just goes bonkers, absolutely bonkers. Then all of a sudden, people start paying attention a little bit more. I mean, hardcore old school fantasy baseball people knew who the young prospects were. We don't we didn't know then like what we know now. I mean, the information is just so unbelievably vast. But from that time with Pujols, and then turning around and seeing other youngsters emerge. Like I remember when Eric Hinsky won the Rookie of the Year award when he was with Toronto, and all of a sudden it was like Mike Trout was the like a super huge name for everybody, and suddenly the prospecting has gotten insane in the sense that there's too much of it now. There's just way too much love for the youngsters who we've seen. We've got guys who are doing great, but there are guys who struggle unbelievably, and we're kind of seeing that. This all kind of had a question in Discord asked of me about stashing guys like Jordan Lawler, Matt Shaw, right? And I'm like, dude, you got 3 bench spots, and your NA spot is already taken up by Roman Anthony. And you need to improve in your saves and holds and your ERA. And what are you going to do tying up a bench spot with Jordan Lawler or Matt Shaw? So it kind of that's really where it started. And then shout out to Real Talk Raph from Rotoballer posted the meme, and it was like Jennifer Aniston, and then it was who was this old beaten up rock star. It's like very Iggy Pop-ish. It was like what you thought you were getting from Nick Kurtz, or Nick Kurtz pre-call up hype, versus what you're getting out of him right now. And I mean, so, is that something? Because it's kind of funny. I mean, I've been hardcore playing fantasy baseball for decades now. And so just to see the progression, I guess I'm like the old man here. So be the young gun here and tell me that this is just par for the course.
I think it comes down to, especially depending on league size, like taking the chance on like a Jordan Lawler type, like he might be more impactful than anybody else who's hanging out around there. You see it in the NFL too. Like if a guy is a free agent come June, there's a reason he's a free agent come June. He's just not any good. It's same thing for fantasy baseball. Like maybe we're seeing it in that sense of, hey, Jordan Lawler's had some pretty good numbers in the minors. He's going to come up and play. He's far more impactful than any of these other second base, shortstop, third basemen that are sitting out on my waiver wire right now. I think it's the upside play. And one could argue that maybe fantasy football is impacting this a little bit, because think how excited we get for the rookies. Think about last year's draft. Where was Marvin Harrison Jr. going before he even played a draft? Where the the hell is Ashton Genty going to go this year in drafts? And he has played the same amount of NFL snaps as you and I. In the NFL, they come in with expectations, or maybe for fantasy, with expectations to come in and basically dominate right away. Baseball's not that way. That does not happen. There's growth. There is maturation. I mean, we'll get into talking about some of these guys, but Kyron Paris has 10 combined home runs and stolen bases on the season. He has one of those 10 have come in the last 15 games with a near 50% strikeout rate. I was all aboard adding that guy early on, but there is so much development that happens at this level and also adjustments. People see, like, when you look, you could look at a guy like right now, like, I don't even know who's young going to talk about, like maybe like a Drew Waters. Like the numbers are fine, but that 400 BABIP is not going to, his numbers aren't going to continue when you do the equation of 400 BABIP plus near 30% strikeout rate. The writing's on the wall. You see it with pitchers all the time. How can they do it with, how long can their ERA stay at 2 when their FIP is at 7 and their Sierra is at 6? I think it's part of the fantasy football ideology that's coming over, that these guys get drafted, walk right into the scene, are the guy, and dominate right away. And it's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges.
Well, and that's a huge thing in fantasy baseball. We see this. How many times does a guy just absolutely suck for his cup of coffee? Right? Mike Trout, when he first came up, was terrible. Aaron Judge could not stop striking out when he first came up. So, we've seen that. Now, there are obvious examples of guys who really kind of hit. And I get it, right? I get fishing for the upside. But so many things need to break right. Like in fantasy football, you can tell based on where a rookie, not where he gets drafted in the draft, but where his landing spot is. And you can see what his path to touches are. And I feel like people ignore the path in fantasy baseball. You just expect to hear about this guy who's absolutely tearing it up. And mind you, also tearing it up in the PCL. Which, I'm sorry, it's a hitter-friendly league. Mm-hmm. And the majority of pitchers who are at the AAA level are there. Why? Because they're not good enough to be in the majors. You get prospects who move through, but I see more AA pitchers skip AAA and just go right to the show than we do see like guys really making that progression through AAA. So I always do take AAA stats with a little bit of a grain of salt based on, is it PCL versus the International League and stuff like that. But like people just ignoring the path. Start with Jordan Lawler because, we'll just, because this is, on the horizon. We'll talk about Nick Kurtz and Caleb Durbin and, Augustine Ramirez, everybody's absolute favorite catcher, right? But like Jordan Lawler, for me, the problem is there's no path. Mm-hmm. Ketel Marte's coming back, right, from a hamstring issue. He ain't coming off of second base. Geraldo Perdomo, even if he wakes up and remembers that he's Geraldo Perdomo and doesn't have a great bat normally, has an amazing glove. Slick fielding shortstop. And Eugenio Suarez, he's got 10 home runs right now. You don't expect a big batting average from him anyway, but, and then you've got, and Pavin Smith at the DH spot. Josh Naylor at first base. Like, eventually these guys will cool off and maybe the path opens up, but I mean, I really are you going to take a guy like Jordan Lawler and, move him to a DH spot because he's tearing it up in the PCL right now? Like that's the problem for me, Colby, is that people are just losing sight of really what the path to at-bats is.
Well, and that's the thing. Like how long can you feasibly hold a 0 on your bench? They're not doing anything. Like depending on your league setup, sure, maybe you're able to, but you hit the nail on the head with some of these guys. Like for Nick Kurtz, for example, we had talked about like, let's do this. Let's move some pieces around. Then you started to see that Soderstrom was moving here. Rooker was moving here. They're going to tell you if it's happening. Like, I think Lawler started to get a little bit of time at third here down in the minors. Like they're trying to do a little bit to get in there. But at that point, like Perdomo signed a multi-year deal. They won't take Tim. I always want to say Tawa, like Wawa, like the gas station, but I believe it's Tawa, which is dumb. You should just go to Tawa. It sounds so much cooler, but like they're going to continue to play him. until they move Suarez off third base. And then once Ketel Marte comes back, where's Lawler going to play? What if he comes up? What if you get lucky? Not necessarily you, but he gets the call up, but he splits time at third with Suarez. You now have a platoon bat that you've been holding out to be your beacon of light to help your offensive numbers at the fantasy, season kind of progressing here. So when it comes to a guy like Lawler, there's no opportunity right now. And I don't necessarily, there's a path that he might not be on the team at the end of the year, because if the Diamondbacks make a move at some point, like they could basically say, hey, like we got Perdomo, we'll hold with Ta'a for whatever that's worth, and we got Suarez at third, and they ship out Lawler for a pitcher. Like, I don't necessarily think that's crazy to fathom, to think of. Like, he could be a pretty notable prospect that goes on the move at some point. But right now, there's no path for Lawler. So until we start getting some writing on the wall that a move might be imminent, holding him, I would rather just have some, ho-hum major leaguer that's actually on a team getting at bats right now than Jordan Lawler.
Especially if you've got a short bench. I mean, even if you got 5 guys on your bench, depending on what your roster moves are, if it's daily, you can adjust your lineup daily, then you want to keep like 2 or 3 extra pitchers out there to kind of rotate them in, or an extra closer in there to rotate them in. You want to keep a couple of extra bats in there in case a guy sits or a guy gets hurt, and you can maneuver some guys around there. So 5 players, it's very, very difficult to do that. And the fact that this dude was like ready to just drop like Yohan Duran to stash Jordan Lawler, I'm like, you're struggling with saves and holds here. What's you need to work on your bullpen guys. But I was like, your problem is that you have you only have 3 guys available on your bench, and 2 of those guys are starters, and I'm not even talking like garbage starters. They're all like, I mean, it's a shallow league, right? So it's like I think I saw Shane Baz and Framber Valdez sitting on his bench as guys that he's rotating in, and the guys that he's rotating in. So I mean, I think it's so tough to to kind of do that, to stash a guy like Lawler. And Colby's right. We got to wait until the handwriting's on the wall to make sure that happens. Same with Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw's doing well right now in the minors, but how much confidence building do you give him? What happens if you call him up too soon and then he stumbles again? What are you doing to his self-confidence at that point? Because I think everybody forgets, Colby, how much of a mental makeup you need in order to be like a successful baseball player day in, day out. We're talking about a game where a 30% success rate is considered Hall of Fame. It's not easy.
No, and I mean, what did Yogi Berra say? It was like baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical, something like that, which is pretty good. But that's fitting. Like you can, like baseball has the yips. It's just like mentally you just get this block. Like who was it? Was it John Lester that couldn't throw it to first base when he got the yips?
John Lester couldn't do it. Remember Chuck Knobloch, the second baseman for the Yankees and Twins all those years?
It's incredibly mental. With a guy like Matt Shaw too, he came up and struggled. Like, he's got the prospect, but once he gets the call back, are we expecting him to be the, maybe 15-15 guy that we were hoping for? Don't quite think you can get there. And the other thing too, when it comes with these rookies and prospects that you're looking to bring up, is even if you kind of go best case scenario with some of them, like you almost have to look at your team. Like if you wanted to be in on the Nick Kurtz sweepstakes, you're in a league that you can basically only really roster 2 first basemen at a time. What if you already had 2 decent first basemen? You can pick up Nick Kurtz, but now all you've done is give yourself a bigger headache 7 days out of the week, because you got to determine between Pete Alonso, well, not Vinny P right now, but like a good Vinny P, and then Kurtz. Like you're just kind of put yourself in a pretzel. So you also have to kind of look at your team's build as you're going through. It's a lot easier with pitchers because you kind of just, take the arm and take the upside with them. But especially when it comes to some of these hitters, if they're locked in at a certain position, if you're already kind of stacked at that position, the fancy new toy might not really be a benefit to you. It might just end up being more of a hindrance.
It's funny the names that you mentioned in there, because in my head-to-head league where I'm getting my ass whooped. It's not even my league. It's a friend of mine's league that I joined. It's just I'm just getting brutalized because of a lot of the slow starts. I mean, I don't know who broke Julio Rodriguez, but whoever that is and I we're gonna have words. But I have Vinny Pasquantino and Tristan Cassis, first base and corner infield. Yep. And I have Nick Kurtz. I got I grabbed Nick Kurtz at the end of the draft, put him in my NA spot. Figured, okay, here's a guy who I'll just stash and call up. And when he gets called up, if he does turn out to be the guy, the beast that everybody says he is, or that he showed in the minors, well, then great. Then I've got somebody to trade. But I got 3 first base corner infielders, none of whom can hit their way out of a paper bag right now. Like, it's disgusting. I think the Red Sox, like, I think it was like every single batter hit a home run except for Tristan Cassis.
Well, you know what they say, when you have 3 first basemen, you have none. That's what they say.
Is that what they say?
Well, they say it about quarterbacks in college football, but I'm sure it compares to fantasy baseball and corner infielders.
I'm sure it does. Your outlook for Nick Kurtz the rest of the way? Like, because I feel like the first time he hits like back-to-back homers, like, in games or whatever, that's the time I trade him.
Yeah, especially too, if they're going to kind of, let's say, limit his at-bats against left-handers, still puts him on the strong side of a platoon. But I mean, the power's got to come, and he's got to cut back on the strikeouts. Like, is it elevated? Yes. I don't believe he's a 43% strikeout guy like he's showing right now. But if he's going to be on the strong side of a platoon, I don't want a strong side platoon player with a 40% strikeout rate, bringing my batting average down. That is just not going to do it. So until the strikeouts come down, like, the hard hit rate is fine. The launch angle's good enough to lend itself to some power production. But I mean, a 25.4% swinging strike rate is just not going to cut it. If that's going to be that high, I'm going to jump ship. But I think you're right. Get that first week, couple home runs, ship him on out. Because if that strikeout rate doesn't come down, it doesn't matter. You're going to have, if you're lucky, he'll get you a good amount of home runs, but he'll hit below the Mendoza line.
I need an athletics home series against a team that just doesn't have anybody.
Yeah.
So, whoa, is that a dog on your end or my end?
That was on mine.
Nice. Listen, I can never tell with mine sometimes.
He doesn't like Nick Kurtz, apparently. That's
apparently not. Well, that's fine.
Or he really likes him and does not like my analysis on it. Could be either. I'll ask him afterwards.
There you go. All right, so let's who do you want to talk about as far as like some of these? Let's go through some of these rookies. I have a couple of names of guys who I definitely like and want to chat up here. But give me somebody that you're looking at that I don't know, you don't like in particular. Just break it down. We got a number of names to go through.
Yeah, I mean, David Bednar's only allowed 1 earned run since he joined the team again.
Oh my God! Really? That's where you go. We're talking rookies, and you're gonna throw David Bednar propaganda at me?
I just never forget. Never forget David Bednar.
Never forget how much he sucked recently. Come on.
Yeah, let me take kind of I'll take the low hanging fruit with Chase Dolander. Here's the thing. I love the talent. I love what he can be. I'm scared to death of his future in Coors if he cannot figure out these home runs. Like, it's bad. Like, I know he's better today, and of course he has a great start today, and what happens? His fingernail cracks because he was pushing into the ball so damn hard. But but the ground ball rate,
it the entire
exactly. I mean, hey, listen, 7.91 ERA is not going to cut it for him. The FIP isn't any better. Sure, the sub 4 xFIP is cool and all, but when you kind of look at that profile right now, strikeout rate's solid, but you can't sustain with that sort of home run rate. Him being in Coors is not good. I'm not sure if it's the pitch shape, if it's the pitch mix, if he's just pressing, because he's basically flew through the minors. He had 1 minor league season. Maybe there just needs a little bit more seasoning. But when you look at him too, I mean, he did throw a hell of a lot of innings last year. So he's equipped for a full workload. But at this point, like, I have a league where I have Yuri Perez, Tyler Glasnow, Shane McClanahan, and Brandon Woodruff all on IL. I barely have enough starters to get through my week with the number of starters, and I still sat Dolander his last 2 times out because the home runs are just so bad. And when you look, lefties are just, I might be able to get a hit, and I'm not even a good left-handed hitter. That's what I'm saying. But 737 slug, 473 Roba against him this year. He has got to do something with that pitch mix to handle lefties, or Colorado might Colorado and send them down. Like, it's not out of the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not out of the question. You want to, you know, again, and I don't really understand this with as far as like Rocky's scouting. You know what's going on here. Why are you not? You I think you and I talked about this. Why are you not loading up on guys with high ground ball rates? Throw a lot of cut fastballs, right? A lot of sliders in the dirt. Really, just kind of, you know, like do it that way because yeah, I mean, I like Dollander from a skill set standpoint, but you can't trust him in Colorado. You can't. And even if you know you're talking about him on the road, and you know, well, I'll only start him on the road. The question is do you have a bench that's big enough to withstand that? To be able to have a guy who you know you're not going to be able to start probably like every other week. You're not going to get something out of him. And is it worth keeping that, you know, around on your bench, which I have a hard time with? I mean, it's all Colorado pitchers, man. It's all Colorado pitchers. Eventually, they're all Herman Marquez. Eventually.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him too. He's got the fastball and cutter, but both of them are around a 40% fly ball rate on the year. Like, you know,
no.
I don't know why the Rockies don't go for like 5 Jose Sorianos. Just sinker people to death.
Yeah, he's kind of stinky right now. Dude. He's had a couple of rough outings.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's got some rough outings, I mean, at least, you know, if you were pitching Colorado and he was having rough outings, but why don't the Rockies, like, where's the awareness? You know what your park is. You know the environment. Not that Dollander is like an incredibly, like through the minors, he had a half decent ground ball rate at times. I just lost where I was at with him, but in the probably mid 40% in the minors. Okay, so he was sub 40 pretty much all the way through till he got to AAA where he made 1 start this year. So yeah, I mean, he's not really a ground ball guy. Like they need to hammer sinker changeup archetypes.
Yeah.
And just try to just keep the ball out of the air and give themselves a chance. But that means they'll probably just continue to go for guys who throw fastballs up in the zone to try to generate pop outs and fly balls, which leads to
which would just be just a tragic. I mean, it's a tragic mistake. It really is, because you know, again, like you said, you know the archetype that you're looking for this particular ballpark. You know, cater to that. And I mean, if you've got a, you know, if you're looking at draft boards and you're looking at guys who are high quality pitchers that you know, but they're still not good ground ball specialists here, maybe you have to pass up on that. Maybe you work out a deal with somebody for somebody. Like you have to build the team to your ballpark. And then, you know, maybe that means you're just drafting a ton of hitters and, you know, and kind of patching together, you know, late draft picks and stuff like that. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for years, the Mariners had Jamie Moyer as like one of their best pitchers. So, yeah, give me a junk baller like that, for crying out. Jamie Moyer was a pitcher from my era there, Colby. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, they got a commercial. They got a commercial with him where I think it's for a pocket radar or something, and he throws and it says like he lobs it and it says like 97, and they're like Jamie Moyer approved.
Yeah,
I like it. I respect it. I respect it.
Jamie Moyer ever threw 97. Unbelievable. You know, I want to bring up 2 guys who I have shares of in a couple of different leagues. Number 1 is Caleb Durbin, because I'm, you know, finally the Oliver Dunn experiment ended in Milwaukee. He revealed who he actually is. Caleb Durbin he's a good speed guy. Now, I mean, so far right now, what we're looking at from him, you know, is he's finding his way. He's finding his way. He's only played like a dozen games right now. I'm looking at some numbers here. Doesn't strike out a bunch. Doesn't walk a bunch either. Batting 257 with a 366 OBP. I dig all of that. And we'll see what happens with that developing. I like him because I like his eligibility. You know, he's at third. He might end up, you know, playing some, or, you know, around the field. So we're going to have to wait and see there. But you know, I got him locked in at the hot corner for some stolen bases. And the other rookie that you mentioned already that I'm curious as to him, but this is another high strikeout guy, is Drew Waters that you mentioned. And, you know, and it's so funny too, because I've had Drew Waters on my SiriusXM Dynasty team since 2017. And I've just left him on there. Just, you know, maybe something will happen. Maybe it'll click. And you know what? I like what I see right now. But again, here's a guy who struggled with strikeouts his entire career, and he's still striking out now at a 30% clip at 26 years old. Like you would think, as you're entering your physical prime, you kind of put it together a little bit better for yourself, but that is not the case. So I'm having a hard time whether or not I should believe, in Waters or not.
I mean, while he's performing well, I think you're okay with it. And here's the thing: he's always kind of been that high strikeout guy. His BABIP is a little bit unsustainable. Let's say that. But even like compared to other years, like back in 2023, like his numbers now in terms of like his average exit velocity and stuff, pretty on par as expected baggage, pretty close to that year. So, I mean, I don't think there's much reason to believe why he doesn't kind of hang out at like a 240, maybe 250 average rest of the way. And there's a little power speed combo there. So I like Drew Waters. And honestly, at this point, if anybody's hitting for Kansas City, they can't afford to take him out of the lineup.
No.
So he's basically assured.
Everybody sucks except for Bobby Witt now all of a sudden. Like everybody sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you also mentioned Caleb Durbin too. The one thing that I like when like some of these guys come up and we get to see them after actually a couple of years in the minors for Durbin is he's not doing anything that he hadn't done during his time in the minors. Like in the minors, low strikeout guy. What is he now? Low strikeout guy. In fact, you could argue that there's just things he's not doing that he was doing in the minors, which is stealing bases and posting a double-digit-esque walk rate. Like Durbin, like I honestly think like seeing him, this is exactly what he can be: solid for batting average and OBP. He's not going to strike out, probably more quantity of contact than quality per se, but there's enough there. Milwaukee will let him run. So I'm really intrigued by Durbin. It might not be the flashiest stat line overall by the year's end, but it's going to be one of those things we talk about with a lot of guys, kind of like an Alec Boehm type, where it's at the end of the year, you look and you're like, that really did help, though I never really noticed it at any given point throughout the course of the season. Just a steady guy. So I like Durbin a lot, but I love the hot bat that Waters is swinging right now.
Okay, so and I'll happily stick with Waters until he falls off that cliff. Durbin, I do see what you're saying there, and I do hope he starts to draw some more walks. I would love to see that. If he can do that, I mean, already sitting at a 366 on base percentage, through his first 11 games. So if he can kind of add to that walk rate, that's just going to make him that much more valuable because he'll hopefully get the green light. What about here we go. Let's just kind of roll through some of these guys. Augustine Ramirez, everybody's favorite Miami Marlins catcher. Are you a believer in Augustine Ramirez? Do you have him on any of your rosters? And if so, Colby, how much did you pay in FAB to acquire him?
Well, when you invest in catchers very early in draft, that's one position you don't have to really worry about out on the waiver wire. So I don't have much of Augustin Ramirez, but I would be looking to trade him. I think it's one of those situations where his value is never going to be higher. You can point to all the numbers right now: the 815 slug, 481 ISO. He's already got a handful of stolen base attempts as a catcher, which is obviously going to be quite valuable, but it's the Miami offense. So good luck with counting stats there. He showed decent power in the minors, but really it was in 2023 and 2024. Prior to that, there wasn't all that much per se. So it's, I don't know. You look at the walk rate's been fine. The strikeouts are there, but this is just one of those things where I think you can sucker someone in your league as like, hey, he's a catcher who can run. He's more of an opportunistic base stealer than a burner on the base paths. But eventually, just like we see with a lot of Miami bats, things falter, things come down. The counting stats aren't going to be overly as impressive, and I just don't think it gets any higher than this. So if you have a catcher needy team in your league, I would be pretty aggressively looking to ship out Augustin Ramirez.
Okay, all right. Any other rookies that you're eyeballing you want to check out?
I don't know if he technically has rookie eligibility. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know the other guys at Fantasy Alarm, mainly Grande and Pemba, do like themselves some Connor Norby. I don't believe he has the rookie eligibility tag, but I love this kid. He just has to cut back on the strikeouts, but I have told people in Discord, pick him up. If he's available, go get him. I know I just kind of poo-pooed the Miami offense, and now I come back with adding Connor Norby.
Get him. He's the best second-year guy out there right now.
Yeah, I am a sucker for Connor Norby. So he should give you second and third, I believe, on most sites in terms of positional eligibility. And we saw last year he can hit and run for a little bit. He was a guy that I like to probably flirt with 2010 this year, but then he had the injury that slowed him down a little bit. But I do fancy myself some Connor Norby here in 2025.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I know Grande and those guys are heavily in on him. It's funny. I actually did the that Miami middle infield, the Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez
Okay.
tandem. Tried to recapture some of that magic. What was it? Was it 2003? It was Hanley Ramirez and Dan Ugla, right? I think that's the tandem at the Miami. That they were the Florida Marlins back then. And they ended up, that was the Florida Marlins. Jeez, so long ago, Colby. This was before Hanley Ramirez was the worst player in the history of baseball.
After he was the
he
best
really
player
fell
in the
off a
history
cliff,
of
didn't
baseball.
he? That guy fell. That guy was money in the bank for the first couple of years, and then all of a sudden it was like
He went first to worst in MLB rankings.
First to worst. All right, so let's talk about something. Where are you? How are your baseball leagues doing right now? Like, are you sitting middle of the pack? Are you leading the pack? Or you find yourself at the bottom? I know that you play in a couple of different ones there, but that's going to at least kind of guide us towards, what injuries you want to complain about or what waiver wire picks you're probably going to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough season, but we're out there fighting every day. Got a good locker room full of guys, and we're just trying to put our best foot forward. You know what I mean? And it's a long season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think our best baseball is ahead of us. So you can take from that what you will.
I love the cliches, man. Those are my favorite. Those are my absolute favorite.
But let me assure you, it's not from a lack of hard work or a lack of dedication. We got a locker room of anywhere from, I don't even know, 16 to 27 good guys, of which about 8 are truly healthy.
Well, I was going to say, is your pitching? Is it your hitting? I mean, are you talking like Logan Gilbert, Tyler Glasnow? You had those guys, and now you're screwed.
Yeah, on top of Yuri, Woodruff, which those were self-imposed. I get that. Clark Schmidt to begin the year was injured.
Well, you can't put Yuri Perez and Brandon Woodruff in there yet. I mean, you knew what that was coming in. You knew that was a stash play.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's why it's kind of like not necessarily on them, but sure. I mean, it gives me reason to complain. Makes my IL spot look absolutely jacked. But coming into this season in my home league, my top 3 arms were after the draft were Glasnow, Gilbert, McClanahan. So that has been a tough little start on top of my favorite breakout guy, Josh Lowe, who injured, and then, we just talked about stashing players, but I did it. Acuna was one of my keepers. I drafted Brandon Woodruff. I used my top waiver claim afterwards to get Yuri. I took up these spots with guys that were then injured. Luckily, I had enough IL to do it, but it kind of comes back to bite you because 2 weeks into the season, I had no IL spots. So now I'm taking active roster spots because I can't drop Josh Lowe. I can't drop Shane McClanahan. So, it's kind of this, oh man, look, my IL's already full 2 days into the season. I'm hot, what? And now it's like, cool, I have 4 bench spots, 2 of which are being occupied by injured players that I can't drop.
I mean, how many guys do you draft and stash though? Like, I mean, are you saying like that I think is definitely a problem. And I think it's kind of a rough draft strategy to draft like 3 of those guys and immediately be like, I'm going to put them on my IL. I'm going to pick up guys, off of waivers. So what you're doing right now is that you're drafting 3 players, right? To park on your IL and take up those IL spots to pick up on the waiver wire guys who weren't good enough to be drafted. And now you're rolling with them. So that way, when your other top guys get hurt, you got no place to put them.
Yep. And that's what you run into. And then of course we're going to add like in that league is, 6 keeper year over year. And, so you are trying to look for that young talent and have it. But like TGFBI, for example, those are 20 or those are like 30-man rosters.
Yeah, well, I mean, again,
that one I only drafted 2.
See, what I hate about that, and listen, I love Justin Mason beyond belief. He's one of my absolute favorite people in the world. But you can't give me this garbage of no IL spots in a 15-team league, right? That, like whatever, that everybody's drafting these big ass teams for, and then all of a sudden you've got bench spots. So there's really nothing available on the waiver wire, and you're stuck with all of these hurt guys who are hurt now, who got hurt. Not even so much that you drafted some to stash. Like, I don't like drafting a lot of injured guys to stash them away and tie up because of this example here. But yeah, we got nailed with McClanahan. Him being bad. Josh Lowe is a very disappointing guy over there. I would just go to my stupid ass team and just kind of, because I got bit by the injury bug pretty hard over there also. Just
and we see it too. We see it so many times. Like I liked Acuna because, depending if he come back on time, but what if he gets pushed back? We saw it last year in football with Jonathan Brooks. He'll be back in week 3 or week 4. Didn't see him. Then what happened? We got 2 games from him, and there goes your 7th round pick. So you have to be careful with these injury stashes. Whether if you don't have IL spots, it's really, really hard to do it. I did it with 2 in TGFBI, and one of them isn't even on my team any longer. So like that just goes to show you.
Well, there you go. That was the thing. Like, you're keeping a guy like Acuna. Who'd you drop? Who was the stash that you had to dump off finally?
Ha-Seong Kim for the Rays.
Okay.
Who's not going to be back till May.
Right.
Well, I guess May is probably today as people are listening to this, but
like late May.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and that's something that you're kind of
a couple of weeks away, Colby. Give yourself a break.
Yeah, well, he's been off the team for a couple of weeks now anyway, because, you just, push comes to shove. Then what ends up happening too is because you do the whole stash game, like someone with Ha-Seong Kim, it's like, well, I drafted him because he's going to be nice power speed when he comes back. So I don't want to drop him. So then you start dropping active players from your team to then, God forbid, you get bit with the injury bug. And now it's like, man, shit, I really wish I would have had that guy who was actually playing that I dropped a week or 2 ago. You got to be really careful with these stashes and prospects because so much can happen in this fickle game and they can come up and, Mike Trout wasn't Mike Trout on day 1. There's growth, there's maturation. Look at how many iterations of Bryce Harper that we've had throughout his career. Like people forget he was a freaking catcher when he got popped, and then he quickly moved away from there. But like, look how many iterations of him we've had throughout his career, some ups, some downs, and so forth. So what these guys, and we just saw it last year with Jackson Holliday, came up, was nothing like that. I still think he has a pretty productive MLB career, but we're not at that point right now. They're not a finished product on day 1, is what I'm trying to say.
I got you. I definitely got you. All right. I mean, it's tough. I'm sorry you're having such a rough season, Colby. I think this podcast would be so much more entertaining if we were both like, yeah, we're crushing. I mean, my head-to-head league, I'm getting annihilated. In NL only labor, I'm battling back and forth with Derek Carty for the top spot, which always makes me feel good because Derek Carty, I think, has won this league more than anybody else in the NL labor area. So I always know that he's like a tough competitor. But yeah, he and I are just kind of going back and forth a bunch because I like my team. My team's got some good guys there, but oof. You know who's ruined me? Can we take a moment here and just think about it right now, Colby? Forget about injury. Or you know what? I'll tell you what. There's a guy who was injured. I drafted, stashed him, and he came back, and he's an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I will say relief pitcher.
Oh, that's not who I thought at first. Until you went into the kind of second iteration of that explanation, I thought you were first talking about Matt McClain with his recent struggles and how much
I want to choke the life out of Matt McClain. I really do.
Relief,
but I believe that Matt McClain will turn it around. I do not believe this reliever is going to turn it around, and I'm going to be pissed as all hell for having spent as much money on him in the auction as I did because we drafted super early in this. We drafted the beginning of the freaking. Like middle February, I think we've drafted.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Who is it?
Guy. Yep. It all checks out. But listen, the good thing is David Bednar, only 1 earned run.
No, it's
allowed
not David
in his
Bednar.
last 6 appearances.
You were closer with Matt McClain than you are with David Bednar. Although with David Bednar, you're still in the same division.
Okay, so we're talking
about Alexis Diaz sucks at baseball. This is your Alexis Diaz sucks at baseball alert. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. Emilio Pagan will hold this job at least for like the first half until he gets traded away by the Reds. And then who the hell knows who's going to be closing out for the Reds. But Alexis Diaz is sort of turning into the biggest waste of a draft pick and biggest waste of bid dollars in an auction. I don't even know what to say. Dude gave up like 5 runs today. We're recording this on a Wednesday night, April the 30th. Happy birthday, Shan Blunt, Sirius XM producer. Alexis Diaz. I mean, I'm just done with this guy. Finished.
I mean, hey, anytime you can walk more batters than you can strike out, allow a near 2.0 homer per 9, watch your ground ball rate decrease year over year down to 25% this year and have a FIP over 7, you got to do it. So I respect him for it.
He sucks, dude. He sucks.
I'm looking at this page now, and there is some, 18.8% barrel rate allowed, 7.71 xFIP. He has a real hardy 8.2 swinging strike rate. He throws a first pitch strike half the time. Throws a pitch in the strike zone half the time. Contact over 80%. Good Lord, this is bad. And more walks and strikeouts. Love that.
Oh, always. Isn't that true? Isn't that you're supposed to always have more walks than strikeouts?
Yeah, I mean, he was a 12+% walk rate the last 3 years, and then this year he's like, I gotta get better, 16.7%, and I love seeing negative numbers in the strikeout minus walk rate column. You just love to see that.
Like, it's kind of funny. I mean, as many earned runs allowed in a 3-inning span as like Eugenio Suarez has home runs right now. Like it's you know what? I think I'm going to end up doing that. We're just going to do an entire special on Alexis Diaz, and people who have more. He has more earned runs than this person has strikeouts. Like, I mean, it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly.
Poor guy. He doesn't deserve that. He actually, he does deserve that. You're right. He sucks.
Colby, if we're looking at the waiver wire this week, what's your focus? There's nothing. I'm with you. There's nothing out there in leagues that I'm in. Like guys like Noelve Marte, John Birdie, Josh Smith, the guys that we have in the Google Doc here, right? Alex Verdugo. There's not a name out there that excites me, and most of these guys are gone in leagues of mine. But maybe you've got some encouraging words for me, for our listeners out there seeking waiver wire help. Colby Conway.
I know we just kind of crapped on Alexis Diaz for having more walks and strikeouts, but for Alex Verdugo's sake, we love it. We love more walks than strikeouts for him. So, I like Verdugo. He's getting time at the top of the lineup, so I think he's an interesting one. Waiver wire it's a rough go of things out there. So most of the guys we put in the dock are kind of ones that I'm looking at. I think a lot of people, and perhaps that's playing into kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning. Hey, no, everyone sucks on my waiver wire. Rather than picking up some bum, I'll just pick up Jordan Lawler for the time being. And it's like, well, hey, if that guy gets one single this week, he's going to do more than what Jordan Lawler did or does for you. So like, maybe that's kind of what's playing into this the prospect love or the lust for these prospects coming up. But waiver wire, it is a slim pickings out there. If any of those guys that we kind of mentioned there, I would kind of scoop those up immediately. And I know you've wanted me to bring them up multiple times, but honestly, David Bednar has pitched pretty well the last couple of times. I'm just saying, if you need help,
people drop your full fat budget on David Bednar. Colby Conway giving you his personal endorsement, for sure. A couple of situations I'm watching. Second base in Houston, Mauricio Dubon seems to be getting a little bit more play than our good friend Brendan Rodgers. That's something to obviously take a look at. I will, because of this. It's so funny when you look at like your waiver wire and you look at like the abundance of White Sox who are on your waiver wire. There's an excessive number of Pirates sitting on your waiver wire right there. There aren't as many Athletics sitting there on your waiver wire right now because of this, because of the way everything's kind of set up. Jacob Wilson at shortstop. If you're looking for somebody, Gio Urshela, these guys aren't great guys, but, with Zach Geloff, still sitting on the IL, there's some infielders that you might be able to kind of piece together a little bit from the Athletics.
Other ones too, like Miguel Vargas has been swinging a hot bat of late. Problem with him is just despite hitting like 400 plus over the last week, just shout out White Sox, 1 home run, 2 RBI. That's it. There's just not much counting stats. He's basically batting average, and that's honestly about it. Andy Pajes has been doing a little bit of everything, but he's probably scooped up in kind of in most formats, maybe a JP Crawford type. He's just not really that exciting. Like the waiver wire is full of like basically what I've done in leagues is basically just shuffle through like last 7 days, who's hot and the numbers look good. I pick them up knowing that in 10 days, I'm probably dropping them because that's just kind of where we're at. We're playing a waiver wire roulette with the hot bats. Who's going to stick and who gets cut within a week?
All right. Well, you know what? I don't want to close out today's podcast with some negativity. So I'll tell you what. I'll go first because I'm just going to spring this on you right now. But if you're looking at a player over the past week, your favorite fantasy player over the past, well, we'll say 7 days here, last 7 days, we can all go to the pages. Mine personally here, and I got to tell you, Colby, the resurgence. And I was actually told by Jim Bowden to pay attention to this because he's healthy now, and he wasn't last year, and everybody was kind of writing him off, leaving him for dead. And I'm talking about none other than infielder for the Seattle Mariners, Jorge Polanco. Over the last 5 games, 19 plate appearances, Jorge Polanco, 5 home runs, 12 RBI. He's slashing 563, 632, 1.625 slugging, 400 BABIP. Yeah, striking out 5.3% of the time, walking 10.5% of the time. I'll tell you what, I don't know how long it lasts, but what Jorge Polanco is doing, Jerry DiPoto told me and Jim Bowden on the Fantasy Alarm Show that he would do it, that he would bounce back like this. And considering somebody broke Julio Rodriguez, and he's pain in the ass, dead to me, I'll shout out to Jorge Polanco. He has been my absolute favorite fantasy player over the past week. Who's yours?
Yeah, I'll go to someone that might have been dropped in some leagues because he had such a bad start to the year, but things are turning around for Michael Toglia, turning around in the last week.
See, perfect setup to tell you to get David Bednar from you again, and you missed it. Swing and a miss there, Colby.
Listen, when you said it, I really did. I did think about it, and I was like, how many times can I run this bit into the ground before it goes
over and over? Beat that dead horse. But yeah, go give me Toglia love here.
Yeah, I mean, over the last 7 days, here's the thing. You look for the year, swings outside of the zone, down. Contact, up. Swinging strike rate, down. He's making more contact. That's what we need. Half his games are going to be played at Coors. I believe it's 2 home runs and even a stolen base with the 21-ish% strikeout rate over the last 7 days. So Toglia might be turning a corner on the year. And I mean, overall, 3 homers, 2 stolen bases. Strikeout rate's still too close to 40%, but I think we're going to start coming down. And I like better days ahead for Toglia coming off a 25-10 season in 2024.
I hope so, because that Colorado lineup is trash. It's bad. You can't even get excited about Brenton Doyle or Jordan Beck.
You can get excited against any lefty facing them, though. It's so exciting.
That you can definitely get excited about, no doubt. Well, there you go.
I love doing the probables grid over at Fantasy Alarm. And it's just, who are the Rockies playing? Are they at Coors? No. Awesome. Is it a lefty? Oh, all the way to the top. Bright green, elite. Doesn't matter who it is. Just, it's going to be a field day for them.
I love doing the pitcher grid. And if you guys don't know about this, you go to fantasyalarm.com under the MLB heading. You've got MLB probable pitchers matchup grid. It's under fantasy baseball tools. And we should probably start signing our names to these because you can definitely tell, like Colby's there giving you some full analysis and everything like that. And then you get some of mine, which are Chase Dollander today, who actually had a good game. My analysis was against the Braves in Coors. Right? My analysis on Cal Quantrill. Do we even have to ask?
Yep. It's fine. I'll have the ones where I'll go into it and like Scooble's ERA is 2 points lower on the road over his last 17 starts when the weather is between 60 and 63 degrees. And then I'll have other ones where I just write opener. And that's it. And I just leave it at that. Or I'll have other ones of like, you really want to start a guy with a 2.6 homer per nine at Coors Field? ? And that's it. That's the whole analysis. Then red for fade. It's always funny. Like you have the ones that are like in such a good spot and like I write about them so much. Then I have guys that I just don't like at all in that matchup. And they either get like 3 sentences or it's just like the one number that I loathe about them for the day. And I just write that multiple times of like ignore, fade, avoid, carry on.
I have AJ Bluebaugh today in today's lineup, the kid from Houston. I wrote, sounds like a character from Arrested Development. We'll pass on the big league debut.
Yeah. I love it. But that grid's awesome. It's definitely a good resource for anyone, whether it's for DFS purposes, seasonal fantasy, whatever you're kind of doing for the day, setting it up, or just honestly trying to play some bets for the day. It's an invaluable resource for all y'all out there. So make sure you check it out over at Fantasy Alarm.
No doubt. And that's going to do it for us here tonight. We thank you all for staying tuned in with us here, whether you're watching us on the YouTubes. If you are, thank you very much. Click that like button, click that subscribe button there as well. If you're just listening to us on the podcast, those are the dulcet tones of Colby Conway, which are like, it's like I just want to nest in that little voice there. It's I hear that's how you got the wife, man. It was the nice, smooth, dulcet tones of Colby Conway. Yeah, and me, Howard Bender, a little nasally and kind of a whiny sort of way. But either way, that's going to do it for us here on the podcast. We thank everybody for tuning in. For Colby Conway, I'm Howard Bender.